Welcome to the channel. I trust that you're doing well. I mean, we've got Bitcoin hitting another all-time high, at least at the time of making this video. Who knows? By the time you're watching this video, maybe Bitcoin's trading higher, or maybe it's dumping into the abyss. We'll see about that. But in this video, I'm going to do a market update video. We're going to take a look at some of the inflows for the ETFs, as it's been another very big day of inflows. We'll take a look at the market sentiment, and I've got some breaking news that I'll be sharing towards the end of this video as well. So if you like this kind of content, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tick the bell for future videos. Let's get into it. And the bullishness continues as Bitcoin hits another all-time high, coming in right around the $95,000 mark, at least at the time of recording. We see it getting supported by the 10 simple moving average down below as it thrusts to the upside once again and coming in on really big volume down below here. So a lot of conviction as Bitcoin is trying to test some higher price points here. Maybe we get $100,000 Bitcoin sooner than we think. So we're going to come back to this chart towards the end of the video, and I'll show you some key levels that I'm paying attention to as Bitcoin continues its move here. So moving along here to the Bitcoin ETF inflows, it was another big day of inflows. We can see right over here that we got another $837 million worth of inflows across the ETFs alone. And if we just do some really basic math on that, we'll go 837 million. And we'll divide that by the current price of Bitcoin, which is around 94,444 at the time of making this video. We can see that approximately 8,862 Bitcoin was swallowed up by the ETFs alone. Never mind all the other buy pressure that's out there, like the Giga Chad Michael Saylor. I mean, there's a lot of buy interest for Bitcoin right now, to say the least. Let's take a quick look at the market sentiment here on Bitcoin Magazine Pro. We are looking at the Bitcoin Fear and Greed Index. And down here, bottom right-hand side, you're not going to be able to see this because I'm in the way. It is ticking at an 83 out of 100, which is considered extreme greed. Now, if an asset is range-bound, extreme greed can sometimes be a signal that there could be a cooling off period sometime in the near future. Now, if you ever see extreme fear on a range-bound asset, sometimes that can be a bit of a signal that maybe there's an upside move that might be imminent. However, if we look at the price of Bitcoin, it is not range-bound. Bitcoin is clearly in price discovery, having a major breakout at the time of making this video. Now, if we look back in the past, back over here on the last major run-up for Bitcoin, we can see that as Bitcoin breaks structure to the upside alongside that greed reading, we can see that it can stay that way for a very long time. So it becomes confluence with the move that we're having. So the simple fact that Bitcoin is in a breakout right now, this extreme greed is showing us major interest, and it really isn't much of a canary in the coal mine, at least not yet. So that's very interesting to watch as that takes shape. We'll keep our eyes on this going forward in the future. If we pop over here to the Bitcoin search terms on Google, I have this set to worldwide, and this is since the genesis of Bitcoin. We can see that retail interest is still very, very low. For the search term Bitcoin, we are only seeing a reading currently of about 19. And this is projecting that we might see this pop up to about a 44 sometime in the near future. But this is nowhere near this reading back here in about 2017 when the search term was hitting 100. And I remember that time. I was definitely inside the markets, and that was when Bitcoin was getting around about 20,000 or so at the time. But as we can see here, that all the FOMO and all the greed right now is coming from people that have been in the market all along, and from all the institutional interest as well. We don't even have the retail involved in this move just yet, which signals to me that we're likely in for a pretty interesting 2025. And jumping over here to X, we have some breaking news from the Bitcoin news account. So shout out to them. If you're on X, certainly go give them a follow. But breaking news, Trump's team is exploring the creation of a White House role dedicated to cryptocurrency policy. It's unclear if there will be a senior crypto czar role to oversee federal policy, but advocates are urging for direct access to Trump, sources said. And what's interesting about this is it's cryptocurrency policy, not just Bitcoin policy. So Bitcoin's the king. In the past cycles, Bitcoin usually makes massive moves, and then money rotates into the alt sector, and then it ultimately leads to an alt season. But right now, there's also a lot more clarity on Bitcoin versus the rest of the cryptocurrency sector. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens as the new administration takes power in Q1 of 2025. Will their cryptocurrency policies be dovish? I tend to think they will, and maybe that will be a key ingredient to a really big alt season sometime in 2025. 2025. So certainly something worth paying attention to as the new administration takes power in 2025. And jumping back over to Bitcoin here on a daily chart and trading view, we can see that price action got supported by the 10 simple moving average here, which is usually indicative of trend in progress and strong trend in progress. The volume down below is quite significant, eclipsing a lot of the volume reads that came before it. So the market is quite convicted that Bitcoin does need to be trading at a higher price point. How high does it go? Maybe we see it get up around that 100,000 mark, maybe a little bit higher. Of course, 100,000 will be some psychological resistance, but there are some things suggesting it might push a little bit higher than that. And we can see that if I bring the chart out to a weekly chart like this. I'll zoom this out, and we're going to go ahead and grab a Fibonacci tool here, and I'm going to pull it from the wick of this high right here, and we'll bring it all the way down to the lows of the bear market, just like this. I'm going to go ahead and try that one more time. So we're going to go like this. Stick that on like so, and we can see that the 1.618 is coming in at roughly $102,000. Now, the 1.618 on the Fibonacci extension is something a lot of traders look at. A lot of investors and traders look at these levels. There's even bots and algorithms that are programmed to it. So maybe we see on this next push of Bitcoin reaching all the way up just above that 100,000 mark, hitting 102,000. And it'll be interesting to watch that level to see how Bitcoin's price interacts with it. I mean, we can clearly see here on the weekly that Bitcoin's getting a bit extended, but, signaling a little bit more room to the upside. But what happens when it hits the 1.618? Do we see Bitcoin kind of cool off for a few weeks, like maybe a little bit of sideways and down before getting its footing and moving to the upside? Remains to be seen. Or do we just blow right on through that? But a lot of eyeballs are going to be on this level here at the 1.618. Now, if we drop down to some of the momentum here, we'll look at the relative strength index. We can see that the RSI is clearly well into the bullish control zone and still has quite a bit of room to run here before it starts reaching these more extreme reads up above. We can see the EMA is still in the neutral zone with a nice aggressive slope to the upside, and it too has lots of room to run. One thing I'll be looking out for is potential bearish divergence on the weekly. We can see when Bitcoin came up here, put in this pivot, and then entered into this really long corrective phase in the market there, we can see where the RSI read was right here. So it remains to be seen, but maybe as Bitcoin moves its way up, tagging that 1.618 over time, maybe the RSI comes in a little bit lower, and if so, it could confirm a little bit of bearish divergence, which in my opinion wouldn't be a death sentence, but maybe that takes us in to a little bit of a cooling off period, maybe a little bit of sideways and down. Remains to be seen. But what we can look at here from the price structure of the asset itself is no matter what happens, if it gets up to that 1.618, I mean, at some point this is going to have a bit of a correction, no doubt. But as long as whatever new low that it forms, so let's say it comes up, tags that 1.618, and say it pulls back, as long as wherever it pulls back to is higher than this pivot point right here, that will be indicating to us that the bullish trend on the weekly is still well intact and that it's perfectly reasonable from a price action perspective to remain with a bullish bias to the upside. And as you can see, this last known pivot on the market down here, I mean, if you were to go off that wick right there, that would be a price point all the way down at 49,831. If you want to use the candle bodies here, that would be more like 54,943. So wherever Bitcoin decides to pull back from, whether it's at the 1.618, higher or lower, as long as we get a higher low on the weekly above, at least 55,000 roughly, we're still in a bullish uptrend on the weekly, and a weekly time frame is a very powerful chart for Bitcoin. So, even if we get some selling or we get some correction around that point up there, as long as we form that higher low, it's probably another major buying opportunity for this asset. And there you have it, everyone, a quick market update for you. But I'd love to hear your thoughts as well, so let me know. Are you still bullish on Bitcoin for the remainder of this year? What do you think about the new administration coming into power in 2025 as it relates to crypto? Do you think that they'll be dovish on crypto? Do you think crypto will be responsibly regulated? And could that lead us into a big altcoin season or maybe an altcoin super cycle? Or do you think the whole thing's silly and you're bearish and you're 100x short? Let me know in the comments down below, everyone. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out this video. Looking forward to seeing you in the next one. And until I do, have yourself a powerful day.